If you want a rewarding career in a city like no other, NOPD and this chief are calling. Change your life and the lives of others. Join NOPD.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by.
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we will cover all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on the docket today to break it down. Two of my favorite guests, Ricardo LeCompte of Channel 4 Sports and Andre Johnson Jr. of Fox 8 Sports and also the Overtime Podcast. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It was good to have both of you back on the program. And boy, we were just talking about, we're about to get, not that it was really a break, but again, we're about to really get into it again with everything that's going on with football back. Not that it ever really stopped, and of course college with the with spring games, with spring starting, and then of course with the NCAA tournament and all the college tournaments going on. And by the way, baseball has started as well. Ricardo, you guys are doing a fantastic job at Channel 4. Tell us about all the great programming you guys got there.
Yeah, currently we've got it felt like we had a little break, and then I think the NFL is just like shortening our span.
Right.
Every year we're like, soon they want to play the Super Bowl on President's Day, and then oh yeah, let's go to the Combine the following week, and then no one gets a break, and then we're all just, trying to catch our breath for a moment. But yeah, we've got, we're covering, of course, all of the stuff that you said. Fourth Down on 4 Sunday nights, 10:35, where we break down everything. I know this week we're going to be talking Saints free agency. We're going to be talking conference tournaments that are starting up. The LHSA girls basketball tournament that's going on in Hammond right now. Currently, we've got two teams playing Thursday night with John Curtis and Slidell. So we cover all of that stuff, and we also have streaming on our WWL Plus app, the Ultimate New Orleans Sports Show. It's the Lush Show with Doug and Ross. Basically, they talk sports and then make cocktails at the end, so you can't beat that.
Yeah, no, you can't beat that at all. No doubt about it. Andre, welcome back to the show. Tell us all about, again, the Overtime Podcast and a great program over at Fox 8.
Oh, yeah, the Overtime Podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, breaking down everything having to do with the Saints, whether we're in season or whether we're in the off season right now. So it's been a lot of talk about free agency, a lot of talk about the draft, a lot of talk about certain players that I'm sure we'll talk about today and their decisions moving forward. So you've got that on YouTube, Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. You've got that on our website, fox8live.com, and then throughout the week on Fox 8 Overtime at 10:30, the final play Sunday night. So it's always going to be busy, even on the Saints off season, you still got all of the other things you mentioned. So
use
it's
the
a
air
fun
quotes
time.
off season.
No doubt, right? Off
season.
There is no off season.
They're never off.
I mean, did they even breathe with NFL? Because again, we went from the Super Bowl almost right into the Combine. So again, there really is. NFL has made it a 365-year league. All right, guys, let's start with the NFL and start with the Saints. First of all, Monday, March 9th, again at 11 a.m. is the legal tampering period begins. Teams can negotiate with agents or the free agents for a 52-hour window. With that, and then comes the start of the new year for the NFL, and then and also the beginning of free agency. It'll be on Wednesday. That'll start March 11th at 3 p.m. The NFL salary cap is $301.2 million, a $22 million increase from last year. First time in the history of the league where they've been over 300 million. Saints right now, according to Spotric, are $44 million over, but with adjustments, it'll be about 11.1 million over, which they could easily traverse that. The dead money is about $66 million, but again, that is expected to grow, especially what came down this morning, which was, again, Cam Jordan getting an opportunity to test free agency for the first time in his career. Guys, I'm surprised because of the dead money. I mean, again, I realize that both Cam and DeMario are in the tail end of their career, even though both guys had an incredible year last year. Taysom Hill looks like he may retire. There's a hope that, again, on the Saints end at least, that there would be a restructure, renegotiation with Kamara to make his cap hit a little bit more friendlier. But with again the possibility of Cam and DeMario hitting free agency, that could be that's well over $30 million in dead money that'll be coming back toward them. Are you surprised by what transpired today?
I'm not surprised that Cam wanted to test free agency and that the Saints were going to allow it. I think with that salary cap going over $300 million and them having a little bit of room, it's a lot easier to negotiate that versus having $100 million in the red and having to deal with dead monies with contracts. So I think the Saints, in terms of that, looking at how they could structure it, they're like, all right, Cam, DeMario, go ahead and test it, and then we'll see what the price points are and see if we want to match of other teams. I feel like with those two in particular, I feel like Cam and with DeMario, I feel like DeMario will have a little bit more interest from teams. I know he's 37. I know that he's still playing at an elite level, and there are teams out there that are Super Bowl contenders that could use a linebacker, and two that can come to mind instantly. The Rams could use them. San Francisco 49ers can use him if Fred Warner isn't back up to where he's at. Those are like two possible teams that are ready to make that run for a Super Bowl and could use a guy like Demario Davis. In terms of Cam Jordan, you saw his snaps go down last season, still had the production, 10.5 sacks. But I don't know if a team wants to spend, again, money on a 30-plus-year-old, 30 in his late 30s, spending money on that. So it feels like, I know we've all kind of prognosticated, like going, maybe Cam comes back in terms on a friendly deal, like if he wants to come back. But I don't mind that they test free agency because it felt like this is the ultimate row where it was going to go down with both of these guys.
That's right.
Well, when I look at Cam Jordan, it doesn't surprise me that he's testing free agency. I think he's earned the opportunity to at least test free agency, but I expect him to come back to the Saints, honestly, because when you look at Cam Jordan, his snaps did go down, but here he still played like 51, 52% of the snaps. And then you look at some of the other places he could go. Obviously, the big elephant in the room is the fact that Cam Jordan does not have a Super Bowl championship. So when he looked to go ring chase, so to speak, obviously some locations come up. Denver, where his former head coach is. There's Chicago, where his former defensive coordinator and Dennis Allen is, certain spots like that. But once again, here, 51, 52% of the snaps, and he produced with 10.5 sacks with that. When he wasn't getting those snaps with a defensive line coach that he's been outwardly, criticizing, he was not happy. So you put him in a Denver where they've got one of the best defensive lines in the league. He's not going to get those snaps in Denver.
Right.
He's not going to get those snaps in Chicago. The Saints are kind of the perfect middle ground of, hey, I'm going to get the snaps here. I'm still going to have a chance to be where I've grown up. I'm going to have a chance to mentor the younger players. And realistically, the Saints are in a place where they probably should be in the playoffs next year. The Saints are in a place where you look at the second-year run that the Patriots made this past season with Drake May. I can see the Saints potentially making that same second-year run next year. So Cam might already be in a place where he can make a deep playoff run and potentially challenge for that Super Bowl. Now, DeMario's a different story. DeMario, he could go a lot of places and start immediately. I don't think there's many teams that Cam Jordan would go and start. DeMario would start immediately in a lot of those Super Bowl contenders places. And you got to keep in mind, DeMario in his career, he's been a Cleveland Brown, he's been a New York Jet, and he's been a New Orleans Saints for some of their worst years. he's never had a chance to really compete for a Super Bowl. So the opportunity to go somewhere else, the opportunity to still play heavy snaps and actually win, that might be a little more enticing for DeMario. So I don't know if he'll be back, but I expect Cam Jordan to be back.
How about Taysom Hill? What do you think? Does he retire? I mean, it has been so quiet about him so far. And of course, the NFL New Year starts next Wednesday. They got to have some type of an end game on on what he's going to do. Do you think he's back?
But yeah, I think the expectation. I feel like he's going to retire, and it felt like that Jets game was kind of like the perfect send off for him as he sets that record. First player with 1,000 yards receiving, rushing, and passing. The way he got emotional afterwards, talking about it and just kind of reflecting on his career as a New Orleans Saint, like that game, I think already stamped in my head like this is probably the end for Taysom Hill. And again, if he decides, let's say he decides he wants to play one more year, what fit or where, because he's such a unique player, where does he fit? And again, we can bring up Denver, old coach of Sean Payton. He could use somebody there. It also would, like, ideally, just life-wise, if he wanted to retire in Salt Lake City, why not run it back in Denver and then you're close to home? It's one of those things where, like, life-wise, it makes sense to go to Denver and then reunite with Sean Payton. But I just don't see where other teams could kind of fit or use Taysom effectively like the Saints have used him these past few years. But so I expect that Taysom does call it a career.
I expect Taysom to retire as well because, I mean, you mentioned the Jets game. We were both in the dome for that, and it just felt like that was the swan song for Taysom Hill. I mean, everybody remembers the touchdown pass, but I believe it was the possession before that. He actually had a touchdown catch that got called back because of a penalty. The Saints targeted him like 3 plays in a row. The Saints love Taysom, but they ain't never targeted him 3 times in a row in the receiving game. So it was clearly a concerted effort to get Taysom the ball, to make sure Taysom had his moment. His entire family was there. That just seems like the perfect swan song and the way to go out. And you look at Taysom Hill and the role that he's played that's been so unique. I don't think that he can help a team in that role anymore. I mean, the biggest thing was when Taysom Hill was back there at quarterback, quarterback power is coming. It's going to be a read option. He's trying to keep it, but teams couldn't stop it. This last season, as he probably came back from that injury a little too early, as the physical started to deteriorate, now all of a sudden everybody knows it's coming and they can stop it. That's not exactly a great position to be in as an offense. Kellen Moore didn't exactly use him in the same way that Clint Kubiak did. Clint Kubiak seems like was able to get a little more out of him at that fullback spot, but Kubiak uses the fullback more than Kellen Moore uses the fullback. So I don't know how many places he would go and really be a fit and someone you can design certain parts of your offense around like you have in the past with the New Orleans Saints. So I think it's best for both parties if Taysom uses that Jets game, calls it a career, swan song, and goes out on top.
Will Kamara restructure, in your opinion?
I think it would be in his best interest. I mean, when you look at the fact that right now, he's getting paid top 5 running back money, and he is giving you far from top 5 running back production. I don't think there's any way as the Saints you can let Kamara go into this year making that much money. So you've got to get him to do what you did with Cam Jordan this past season. Get him to take that pay cut and be able to make it back in makeable incentives. Or you got to trade him. Because right now, as things stand, Alvin Kamara, I don't know if I can say confidently that he's a top 15, top 20 running back, so I cannot pay him top 5 running back money.
Same.
If you fit that same situation last season, I think he would be more hesitant to restructure. I think this just basically what unfolded last year with the fact that it looks like everything's kind of moving in the right direction. You have a quarterback in Tyler Shuck. You have a direction under Kellen Moore. I think, and even when he was talking during the whole trade deadline and wanting to stay in New Orleans, and hey, if it happens, it happens. I'm not really looking for it, but if it happens, I'm up for it. But it seems like he would be at this point of his career, especially because he kind of knows the fact that he's on the other side of 30, is because he hasn't produced like he has in recent years. It feels like he's probably more open now to probably restructure that because of, hey, I can help the team. This team feels like it's going somewhere. Let me be that guy. Let me be that veteran leader who decides to restructure and make it a little bit easier for the front office to do that. If you asked that same question a year ago, I don't think that's the case.
Guys, this is the best shape they've been in a long time in terms of the cap, and they knew they were going to be getting out of the cap, slowly. Obviously, again, the retirement of Derek Carr really, again, sped that up. Are you surprised that they are willing to eat this dead money this year with, again, these veterans, and also, again, the void that they will leave, maybe not so much in their play, but the leadership within that locker room?
Yeah, and I was going to speak kind of on that
Right.
void. I think that's the most important thing. If you're bringing back Cam and you're bringing back DeMario, is that locker room. It's that those veteran voices, that veteran leadership that you have with those two guys, and how, when we've been in the locker room multiple times, during the season, and, I see multiple young guys go to DeMario asking for advice. Cam's a loud, boisterous voice in there who just brings the energy. He's one of those guys who he's talking to everybody. He's the one that you're like, oh, Cam's in the locker room. You know that he's in there. That's kind of what they play in there. It's two different leadership roles, but it's important leadership roles for a young team, especially trying to build to where they're at. And again, I felt like with the dead money situation, it almost feels like if the cap was where the cap was, they're kind of like, you know what, maybe we need to kind of restructure something. Maybe we can get something done. I think at this point they're kind of willing to go, you know what, go ahead and do that. We'll if you want to come back, great. But in terms of dead money, there was going to be one of these contracts or a few of these contracts that we're going to have to eat.
Right.
It was
you knew
bound
that.
to happen.
Right.
So it's better to kind of do with that versus maybe like a Derek Carr, or Drew Brees, or whatever situation. And I feel like they're more at ease, or at least they're more accepting and willing to eat it this go around.
Exactly. I mean, this is a team that's used to having to clear $100 million, $90 million,
Right.
$80 million. So being in a position, even if it's 40, 50, 30, I mean, that's light work to the New Orleans Saints. But, you mentioned veterans. And in this league, especially when we talk about football, I think veterans are undervalued. That's what I would miss the most when it comes to Cam Jordan and DeMario Davis. I mean, even Tyler Shuck, I remember the week they played the Falcons, and he was like, yeah, Cam's really told me, how much we hate the Falcons. Offense, defense, it doesn't matter. Everybody gravitates to Cam Jordan. Can you replace him on the field? Sure. Chase Young just had a career year. Carl Granderson, he was up and down, but his peaks, like in that last game against Atlanta, they were high. You're probably going to look to either draft or sign another edge rusher. So you can survive Cam on the field. DeMario and his leadership on that defense, being the best player on that defense for the last few years, and his void, that'll be missed on the field because honestly, we've been waiting to see if there would be another linebacker to step up and be able to do what DeMario can do. And we've kind of been looking at Pete Werner and seeing if Pete Werner could take that next step, and he really hasn't been able to take that next step. Danny Stutzman, he showed, good flashes as a rookie, but he's still very young. Isaiah Stallbird, nice, rotational guy. He had some moments, but once again, still very young. So you look at that linebacker position, which on this team is essentially the quarterback of the defense.
Right.
You would miss DeMario inside the locker room, and you'd miss DeMario outside the locker room.
I wonder how many plays, again, he diagnosed that play. Got guys in the right position or made the tackle himself. That will definitely be missed. The other big one is Alontae Taylor. Do you anticipate him coming back?
I don't, because I feel like a team, and you heard the rumblings around during the NFL Combine and kind of with the agents and kind of with the price tag that he wants. He wants to be paid like an outside corner. He feels like he's outside corner and deserves that instead of, and the difference between outside and inside, you're making significant millions less. But I feel like there's a team out there who needs a cornerback who would move Alontae to the outside, would love to add a guy like Alontae Taylor, because again, Alontae Taylor willingly said, I will play on the inside, play in the slot. I'll do whatever's best for this defense, whatever defense we have in there, I'm willing to do that. I feel like someone's going to pay him. And it feels like, again, we mentioned Dennis Allen in Chicago. Could that be a possible landing spot for someone like that? But I just feel like the price points for what the Saints would offer and what another team's going to do, I think those two are not going to meet. And if you're Alontae Taylor, go get your money.
Yes.
I don't blame you. Go get your money.
Same.
I would not overpay for Alontae Taylor. How many times did we sit last year and say, man, I miss Paulson Adebo? Not once. Not once, because you let Paulson Adebo walk and you didn't miss him. Alontae Taylor, he wants to be paid like an outside corner, but the reality is he's only taken 32% of his snaps last season were from the outside. Everything else was either in the slot or in the box. That's an inside corner. That's a slot corner, and that's where he excels. Any defensive coach that's been watching Alontae Taylor knows that he excels in a position where he can stop the run, where he can rush the passer. That's where you use Alontae Taylor. So if I can keep Alontae Taylor here for 10, 11 million, gladly I would, because losing him, it would have a big impact on the offseason.
Yes.
Because right now I look at the Saints' biggest needs. I think running back, I think receiver, I think interior offensive lineman. You lose Alontae Taylor, and all of a sudden you've got second-year Kool-Aid McKinstry and first-year Quincy Riley stepping up into next year at cornerback. All of a sudden, cornerback might rise to be your biggest need. All of a sudden, instead of talking about Jeremiah Love and Carnell Tate, maybe you're talking about Mansour Delane from LSU or something like that. So, you know, cornerback would be a really big void. Alontae's presence would be missed, but I don't think he's enough of a difference maker to pay top-tier money to.
Yeah, and that is a fair point. It's just there's always a team out there.
There is always a team.
There's always a team that
and
says
I welcome
we're
them to
desperate,
take it.
and it's cool. Like again, and I don't feel like the Saints are going to overpay for someone like Alontae Taylor. And to that other point, I made this point the other day on 4th down on 4. I feel like one of the dominoes is Alontae Taylor in terms of what they do in the first round. If they lose Alontae Taylor, then that need for cornerback or a shutdown corner kind of rises, and then you're instead of looking like who I feel like a Jeremiah Love, it is like, do you like a Caleb Downs? Do you like those are guys that you kind of throw in there, and it does kind of matter, depending on what the Alontae Taylor situation, how that unfolds in free agency.
I would also say again that the long this thing goes, that Jeremiah Love may not be there at 8 as well. I mean, I just just everything that's transpired around him. So again, Saints fans may they may have their heart on him, but it may go in a different direction, especially if the defense gets dismantled during free agency, because you're gonna have to address that. And I do like the Caleb Downs possibly at the star position as well. Okay. Let's talk. The restructures have already started with Chase Young, so the Saints are going to get under the mandatory cap, so they'll be cap compliant by Wednesday. Needs for this team in free agency. What do they have to attack?
Offensive line, particularly guard. That's number one, and you're going to do better addressing that in free agency versus trying to address offensive guard in the draft. And you've got known commodities that you have in free agency. I feel like that's going to be one. Two, it is also kind of I feel like it's playmaker, and that's the position they're kind of going to also look for. So that could come at running back, that could come at wide receiver, and it also kind of plays out, depends on what they do in free agency, how they again address the draft. So we'll see if they do go, hey, we addressed our wide receiver position, we're good there. Well, we don't need to basically take like a Jordan Tyson or someone in the top 8 or whatever. Or if we get our running backs and kind of have a room that we like, maybe we can address if Jeremiah Love isn't there at 8 and we have some other direction that you can go. Maybe we can address defensive end with Ruben Bain or David Bailey. But offensive guard, there are a lot of veteran guards that they've got to do. And then, especially if you feel like you're going to lose Luke Fortner, who was a valuable backup at center, and you know that Eric McCoy, his history of not being able to stay healthy and stay on the field, then you've got to fill those things. So I feel like it's interior offensive line has got to be it's not a sexy thing to go after, but it's a big need for the
Needed
Saints.
and necessary, I agree.
It's definitely a big need. It's on my top 3, but my number 1, I think you are doing yourself a disservice in as deep of a running back free agency as this is, if you don't leave free agency with a running back.
I agree with that as well.
I mean, you look at this roster. You've got Alvin Kamara. He might get traded. He might take a pay cut. You don't know what the status of a Kamara is, but you know he's coming off his worst season in his career. You can't go into next season planning to give Alvin Kamara 15 to 20 touches. You look past AK on that depth chart. Kendre Miller has not proven he can stay healthy. Devin Neal, he was doing okay in the stretch, but he's, again, not a guy who you come into a season relying on. And I'm not even going to get into Austin Estime and Evan Hull. So you look at this free agent class and you look at the names there. I mean, you've got Kenneth Walker. You've got Travis Etienne. You've got, and obviously those guys are going to command big bucks.
Right.
But there are other guys who might not command big bucks. I mean, you look at a Tyler Algier from the Falcons. A guy who's going to go for pennies in the free agency, but a guy who, I mean, he scored 7 touchdowns last year as the backup. He's a guy who has consistently performed. He had 1,000 yards as a rookie. It just so happens that he's playing behind arguably the best running back in football. You look at the 3rd string running back in Sean Tucker in Tampa Bay. If you need to remind yourself about what Sean Tucker can do, go look about a couple years ago when the Bucs came into the Dome and played the Saints, and Sean Tucker went for about 140 and 2 touchdowns. So, I look at running backs like that in the free agency who you can get for pennies and could probably step on this roster and be the best back on the team. I look at a Kenneth Walker who, I think you might have to overpay him, and I wouldn't go for Kenneth Walker because I think his stock rose a lot because of that Super Bowl run and the Super Bowl MVP. But a Travis Etienne, a guy who's consistently performed, a guy with a skill set similar to Alvin Kamara, a guy who I don't think would necessarily break the bank from a salary perspective, and a guy who's from Louisiana. You know how it is in Louisiana. You grow up in Louisiana, you grow up playing football, dreaming about wearing black and gold. So I think you've got to lean running back. I think you've got to lean receiver. You've got your quarterback of the future, but you've got to build pieces around him to help him succeed and help him put points up on the board. And once again, a Jawan Jennings, a guy in San Francisco who's a big target. You don't have many big targets on this team. And once again, what's something that this offense lacks in the receiving game? Yards after the catch. You want to see what Jawan Jennings can do in yards after the catch? Go watch that Week 2 game against San Francisco where he caught a short ball and took it 30 yards to the end zone. You know, guys like that who you don't have to break the bank for, an Algier, a Tucker, Etienne, a Jennings, those are guys who I would really target in the free agency.
And we know that the Saints, again, traditionally have, again, tried to fill holes in free agency so they have the ability to go best player available in the draft. So again, I agree with both you guys. I think those are needs, all of them, and I think they're also needs where this year, when you look at free agency, there's a plethora of players that are at those positions that they can choose from. That again, they can go for the top guy and spend overpay. But as Andre has said, you can look at the mid-tier guy and still have guys that can come in and be better than what you have on your team now.
Yeah, and to that running back thing, I think I've echoed the running back position for so many years now, where it's just been like, because of Alvin Kamara's dip in production, and then just what they've had depth-wise, and it just hasn't really come to fruition. Like, they need to address the running back room. And yes, there's plenty of guys that they could, big names, guys who have proven it, that they could use in there. And then again, it's funny because I want to see what they do running back-wise, because then that will tell you the Jeremiah Love pick or not. Like that tells you if they address it in free agency, do they not want to go Jeremiah Love? And it's funny when you were like, well, Jeremiah Love might be there at 8. It's like, I think teams have already known about Jeremiah Love prior to that. It wasn't because he ran a 4.37 at the combine, and then it was like, man, he could do everything. It's like, these guys have been watching tape of Notre Dame last season, how much of a dynamic playmaker he was for the Fighting Irish. So it's not like a big shock if he goes before that. It's just, I think everybody has fun like slotting him at 9 to the Chiefs because they're like, ooh, Patrick Mahomes and Jeremiah Love, what you gonna do there? But it's like, I don't think he's even going to get to 9. Let alone, I don't even know if he gets to 8.
No, I would agree.
He is one of those different Bajan Robinson type players. So, but yeah, I feel like if they get the guys they need in free agency at running back, I feel like Jeremiah Love, that's something they don't even consider when they get to 8.
I wouldn't mind taking a running back in free agency and still doubling up to get Jeremiah Love, but the biggest thing about taking a running back in free agency is because you don't, like you said, you don't know if Jeremiah Love will be there. You know how silly you look? If you put all your eggs in the Jeremiah Love basket, you don't take a running back in free agency. Love gets taken number 4 to the Tennessee, and then you're like, well, running it back with AK and Devin Neal.
Or the Chiefs jump you because they traded a first-round pick again.
I don't think there's any doubt that's why they did it yesterday. They want an extra pick to be able to move up. Because again, I guess most people believe that New Orleans is going to try to go after Love. I think a lot of it would predicate on what they do in free agency. Last question on the Saints. I talked about this on the radio show yesterday. I am surprised and also, again, a little bit saddened that the Saints are not going to be playing the Hall of Fame game this year with Breeze going in as the first ballot Hall of Famer. He's the headliner for the class. Normally, the headliner for the class, that team plays in the game. I thought it was going to be again Arizona and New Orleans in that game. Now again, the Saints are citing logistics, etc. California. Look, I said on my radio show, you move heaven and earth. To be at that game. Everybody thought he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. You've had months to figure this out. You figure it out. I am really surprised that again the Saints are not playing in that game. I don't think it's going to stop the Saints fans from making a pilgrimage up there.
No.
But again, not playing in that game, I think it's a mistake on their part.
Yeah, and it was funny because at that end of the year press conference, Mickey Loomis was like, pushing for the Saints to play in that game, where he was like, I think it would be a great opportunity for even the younger players who've never been to Canton to kind of just experience Hall of Fame. This is the history of football, like right here in this building, in this field. You're playing on the field named after Tom Benson. Like it just makes sense for them to play it, and to not to be in that game with Drew Brees. It feels weird, and again, they can back up on that. Well, we're going to do so much travel. We're going to add another preseason game. We're going to California to do joint practices and have part of camp there. It's one of those where it's like you suck it up and you do it. And what's wrong with more football?
Well, not just that. Like, you get an extra game and then more practice.
To tinker and do stuff. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So especially the way, like I said, Mickey Loomis kind of was suggested this team should be in the Hall of Fame game, and them to not be in it because they had influence. Trust me. They can go. It's not like a Roger Goodell NFL situation. If the Saints said we want to play in this game,
they'd have been in the game.
They would have put him in there. Gladly put him in the game.
No doubt.
So this is one where the Saints were they felt like they would, and then they just went. They kind of stared on the idea.
Huge ball drop.
I think that is a ball drop.
Absolutely. I mean, when you watch the Hall of Fame announcement, who was the last player to come out? It was Drew Brees, and you said they had months to prepare. They had 4 years to prepare because the
five
The second you put that Instagram post up, it was like, all right, Hall of Fame, 5 years.
Right, no doubt. We knew that Drew Brees was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You could look at the class ahead of time and say, yeah, this is Drew's year.
Yep.
So you knew what the situation was going to be. So to me, I get you, hey, one less game, travel, money, wear and tear on the back. I don't care, man. This is the Hall of Fame game, like you said, at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio, which is an amazing place to visit. Every football fan needs to visit the Hall of Fame at one point. So it's like, you got to make that happen. Even, a lot of Hall of Fame games, I'm sure you guys have watched, the starters don't even play. So it's not like you're risking your starters. You send your young guys out there. You send guys out there, especially now that there's only 3 preseason games, you have a lot less of an opportunity to look at the guys deeper in your roster. So it's something that to me could only help your evaluation process, help you going into the season, and it puts the Saints on a big platform nationally. A team that didn't have any national television games this past season.
It is a head scratcher.
It definitely is. Well, look, just don't blow the statue, okay? The statue should be there.
We've seen some bad statues in the history of
Dwayne Wade.
I was going to say D-Wade.
Get the statue taken care of. All right, you're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Ricardo, LeCompte, Andre Johnson Jr. are our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We're here from Honduras. We'll be right back. We'll talk more, again, local sports, right here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Ricardo, LeCompte, Andre Johnson Jr., our guest today. Guys, we're going to touch on spring football, which is coming up. LSU starts on the 24th, 15 practices ended on April 24th. As of now, no spring game. Are you surprised?
No, I think most teams, especially at the bigger programs, are moving away from that because it's like we don't want to put our stuff on tape. We don't want, like it's especially in this NIL era and like everybody's very like secrecy in terms of what they want to do. A lot of teams are moving away from spring games. So I know I love the culmination, like a one Saturday where you're like, man, it feels like football is like around the corner, but to not have that, most teams are not doing that now.
Right. Big turnover for this roster too for Lane Kiffin. We'll see again how that plays out. Are you surprised?
Oh, not at all. I mean, especially in this NIL transfer portal era, it's one of those situations where if you're the spring games, once again, aren't necessarily for your starters, it's for the depth pieces.
Yes.
But if your fourth string running back goes for 120 and 3 touchdowns, all of a sudden, you might have Tennessee on the phone, you might have Auburn on the phone, USC is on the phone, your third string quarterback shows a little something, all of a sudden Missouri's calling, John Sumrall at Florida's calling. It's just, you're putting your players on a stage where guys who normally wouldn't get looks and you wouldn't know anything about their skill set, you're willingly showing it off on SEC Network for the nation to see. Guys who probably won't play this year, but you have plans for them in the future, all of a sudden could become someone else's presence. So just to protect your investments, and it is an investment nowadays when you're talking about LSU football, I agree with that.
Trying to stash and hide as much as you can.
Now, again, we only have one portal, one portal date, right? So again, that doesn't really affect it. But to your point, they can still take a look at your guys for next season. All right, the Tulane starts even quicker. Tulane again starts their practice on Monday. 15 practice sessions. They'll end with a spring game on the 18th. The bubble is open, so that's a good thing for them, not having to travel back and forth. And again for Hall, he's kept about 50 to 60 of his players, so it's not a real big turnover for Tulane like we see with LSU.
Yeah, and the big question that Will Hall is going to have to figure out is who's the quarterback. Is it Caden Samonza? Is it Zion Chris? Those guys are going to be splitting reps during the spring, so we're going to see if one of those guys can kind of like ascend. And if Will Hall, when we talked to him, it was basically like, I wanted Samonza back. When we recruited Zion Chris in the transfer portal, we're like, hey, you're going to be competing for this job. Both are willing and accepting to do that. And you've seen even with Tulane offenses, and Will Hall saw this last year, like even though you have your set starter, they'll rotate quarterbacks. They'll get them going. So that's going to be the big question this spring. Does one of those two guys take that ascension and then take that next step to being the starter?
Yeah, they better hope.
If they don't, then you're taking a big step back for Tulane because you had Michael Pratt and he did all of those incredible things. Then Jake Retzlaff falls out of the football heavens a month and a half before the season and all of a sudden can lead Tulane to the kind of season they had last year. But once again, unless there's another quarterback from a ranked team falling out of the football heavens, you're looking at Zion Chris and you're looking at Caden Samonza. You're looking at two guys who you cannot confidently say can play football at as high a level as your previous two quarterbacks. You've got a head coach that a lot of people are looking at and saying that the Tulane Green Wave had to settle to get, because we know that they wanted Blake Baker, and Blake Baker decided to stay in Baton Rouge, so you fell into Will Hall, who hasn't had a lot of coaching success. And Tulane has been kind of one of the premier non-Power 4 schools. And this year is going to be a real test to see if, with everything going on, with losing that coach, losing your quarterback, losing what they've lost. They didn't lose many players, but they lost big players, big coaches. So seeing if they can maintain that level of success despite losing all of that, that'll really decide, are you one of those premier group of 5 teams?
Andre, I agree. They didn't lose a lot of players, but they lost the cream of their team. They lost their better players. As expected, anytime, again, you get into the portal situation with, again, the big boys are going to come in, and they're going after the kids of the American. It is what it is. Let's shift gears to the Pelicans. They're 19-44. 14-16 since the start of the season. February was the first winning month for this team all season long. 6-3 during the month of February. They went up and took on the Lakers the other night, losing 110-109. Fourth quarter, they were still in the game. Then of course, LeBron and Luka took over. 24-7 run, committed 19 turnovers, 29 points off those turnovers. And for the first time all season, they were full strength. Okay? And you really got a feel for, again, what this team was. There were parts of that game where you look at them going, now this is the team I thought we were going to see all season long. And then, of course, they collapsed in the fourth quarter. Stephen A. Smith had a rant about the Pelicans, the front office, etc. The history of the Pelicans. Your thoughts on his rant? Now, look, again, I thought it was very truthful, and I've talked about it on the radio show yesterday. Some people thought it was really a bit over the top. Thoughts?
Yeah, and by the way, that Pelicans lost the Lakers' 9th straight loss for them, so it's pretty lengthy losing streak. You know, it's just as lengthy, a 12-minute rant about a social media team. Like, Seriously, like, look, again, there's nothing he said that was wrong in terms of presenting the Pelicans organization. And I would even say there have been fans, like, what's the worst thing than, like, being talked about, like, or in a negative light? Apathy, right? Like, national media has not talked about the Pelicans. So it's like most fans probably don't mind. I don't know if it's Stephen A. Smith, the one talking, but they don't mind if the national media is talking about the Pelicans in terms of going, step this organization up, take the right steps to, win. And Stephen A. Smith laid out, this is the success of the Pelicans franchise in the last 20-something years. It hasn't been good, right? So, like, that part of it, what he said, like, there is, like, statistical stuff to back that up. But to, like, go after them, and the reason why you bring that up is because you felt salty that the social media team wanted to post your lack of being able to shoot a basketball, and you average less than 1.5 points in college because you keep going after Zion because you haven't watched any, like, Zion Williamson and want to, like, really disparage his weight, even though you really haven't watched them in the last 2 years. Like the social media team's going to take up for their guy, and you as an ESPN personality, like, you got to have a little thicker skin than that.
Agreed.
And the fact that, like, you spent 12 minutes of a 60-minute show on national television to just go after not a player or a team, but a social media, like, admin, like, get a life. Like, literally, just get a life. Like, that's where I just went overboard. You could have addressed it for, like, 2 minutes going, man, y'all don't even mean nothing to me. Y'all can't even, like, get to a play-in tournament. But you spent 12 minutes doing that. Please.
Thoughts?
I mean, Stephen A. definitely thinks he's bigger than basketball, bigger than the Pelicans. And,
Guys talking about running for president. So.
Exactly. And I remember in journalism school, one of the first things I learned was don't make yourself the story. But, Stephen A. Smith must have gone to a different school than I did. But, at the end of the day, like you said, what he said wasn't wrong. The Pelicans put themselves in a place like this to be criticized. Now, granted, this wasn't about the team. This was more of a personal shot because he got his feelings hurt. But the Pelicans also put themselves in a position to be criticized because he's not wrong. They are one of the worst teams in the NBA.
What he said was correct.
Exactly. They have been one of the worst teams in the NBA essentially since the inception. I mean, you're looking at a team right now, even I think I've been ready for them to blow this roster up, but you've got to wonder, are they going to blow this roster up? Even the criticism about Zion Williamson. The big thing about Zion Williamson throughout his entire career, man, if Zion can stay healthy, we can do this, that, and the other. Well, Zion's been healthy this year.
That's right.
And they still stink. Trey Murphy's been healthy. Herb Jones has played most of the games. Jordan Poole, if he's not playing, it's been a coach's decision. You've got 2 Rookie of the Year, guys who are going to at least be in the race. They may not win it, but you've got 2 phenomenal rookies. Yves Missi has been healthy. You've got other talented young players, and you look across this roster, and you've got the face of your franchise healthy, playing games, and you're still at the bottom of the NBA. So if Stephen A. was talking about the Pelicans and the state of this team and the state of this franchise, I'd be all for it. It's just the fact that it was he got his feelings hurt.
He made it personal.
And he made it personal. He wanted to make himself the story and show that he's bigger than the New Orleans Pelicans.
And part of that, I think the reason why he feels like he's bigger, he's getting paid $10 million plus from like ESPN. So he feels like he's like, I'm the face, I can't be made fun of. But again, with the state of the Pelicans, and I think when you said, we're waiting for this team to blow it up. And it feels like they're just kind of like, let's run it back. Let's run it. Like, even this past season, one of the biggest criticisms I had was like, all right, if you're going to change David Griffin and go with Joe Dumars, change the head coach. Like, just start. Like, it's okay to start over. If you want to trade Zion or get rid of, start over. And the unwillingness to do that just is like, okay, do you want to be like a second-tier franchise in terms of the NBA of like, are you really serious about contending for a championship? Because when we get to the offseason, again, it's going to be like, all right, you have these roster questions, like, what are you going to do? As a head coach, are you going to bring back Borrega to like run this thing again? Or are you going to like open your wallets and go get Michael Malone? And like get like a head coach in here who has won a championship and can lead a team to, like, hey, this is how we get, build to get to a championship. Like, are you going to take those serious steps, or are you going to be like, you know what, I'm content with what we have here. I think we have something, and it's far too long. We've seen this for many years that the Pelicans have had that mindset.
I think the jury is still out on Dumars and Weaver again, based on what they did at the beginning of the season. Again, blowing again this year's draft with they could have a possibility of maybe 3 lottery picks. They had 0. You look at again the trade with Washington with C.J. McCollum. that brings in Poole. Poole's your second highest, again, paid player at $30 million. When you are a small market team that is unwilling to be able to be a taxpayer, you can't have your second highest paid player on the bench, not contributing. Your only free agent was Looney, and he's been on the bench. So again, you really have to scratch your head and say, again, what were these guys thinking as they came in to try to tweak this team? Now, the question is, are they willing to do what it takes to blow it up this year and to maybe go in a different direction? And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think they are.
That's the problem.
History tells you they won't.
Right.
Like they have been stuck in this kind of like, again, and Stephen A. had pointed out, and we've all seen it now, 2 playoff series in, last like decade, and they've won one playoff series, and I was there in Portland when they won that, swept the Trailblazers. There's an unwillingness to, I think, like for this franchise, and this is where like they feel like they're always second tier to the Saints, right? But it's like, but you never make those steps to be like, hey, we're going at it, we're going after it, we're going to take the sacrifices to go and like try to win a championship, at least get to a Western Conference final. And there's just the decisions and the steps that they have done in this organization have not like told you or said that they're serious about doing that. And I don't know what'll like. I'm hoping it changes under Joe Dumars, but like so far, it doesn't feel like it's going to go in that direction.
Exactly. I mean, they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, what do you do when it's broke?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's clearly broken.
Right.
Please fix it.
Right.
And you're looking across, and it upsets me so much when I look across the league and I look at these young stars and I see a Tyrese Halliburton making a finals push. I see a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander making the finals push. I see a Anthony Edwards going deep into the playoffs. When Luka was going deep into the playoffs, even Trae Young in Atlanta was playing meaningful playoff games. Jalen Brunson playing meaningful playoff games. All guys who were in the same age bracket or younger than Zion Williamson, consistently at the bare minimum. Paolo Banchero making the play-in. I mean, but we're looking at, you remember the viral Cam Newton rant? We not giving you the same grace that we did when you were a young player. You're a veteran.
Right.
It's been 7 years, and we can look at Zion Williamson and say, either you haven't been available, or this year you have been available, and you have not been a difference maker.
Right.
At some point, this franchise has to do something else. You got to get rid of the coach. You've got to get rid of your star player who's not getting it done. Because I've said it before, I don't think Zion Williamson is good enough to be the best player on a championship team. I don't think that he's the guy personality-wise to lead a city like you've been looking for him to lead this city. And I don't care what he goes on ESPN and tells Malika Andrews. I'm not buying any of that because I've seen what your actions have been over the last 7 seasons. So I just think it's time to start fresh. You get rid of Zion. I wouldn't be mad if you got rid of Herb. I think you've got to shake this team up, shake this roster up. You may be at the bottom rebuilding for a little bit, or you may not be, but you need assets. You need, especially, I mean, you look at the draft. There's so many players in this draft, and you're not in the first round.
And you're not even in it.
You don't have it.
Right, you're not even in it. And that's the thing. So.
And it's discouraging because you're watching like the Pistons 2 years ago, like they're going to be the #1 seed in the East, right?
Exactly.
I'm watching the Charlotte Hornets right now with Knipple as a rookie. They're in 8th right now in the East. They're a game over 500, and it's like the Hornets have been terrible, and they're able to turn it around. Like it's very frustrating if you're a Pelicans fan seeing the same kind of thing run. And again, this offseason, if they don't seriously get it's nothing against James Borrego, but it's still the old system. It's still what you've had. It's nothing has changed. If you decide to take the interim tag off of him, you're not really moving any pieces because I know they're not going to.
They're not.
It's like you're just running it back, and this is what we've seen in the past few seasons, and it hasn't worked. And I don't know if they're going to change it and like turn a new page. It doesn't feel like
it goes all the way up to ownership and management again. On do you want to win an NBA championship? And right now, again, based on what they've done since they've owned the franchise, that has not been in the cards. They have been distracted by the football team, the horse racing, the real estate, and again, the Pelicans have been last on the list, and it shows by, again, where they are right now. Guys, it used to be in Louisiana when it came time for March Madness. We had 5, 6, 7 teams in, and you were sitting in front of the TV, and you couldn't get enough. It's not that way anymore. College basketball on the men's side has died in Louisiana. Maybe the only team that might have a shot is the University of New Orleans, and they blew it this week with an opportunity to be in that top 4, where again they could have gotten the bye. They're 14-15, 12-8 in the Southland. They now will take on Houston Christian in round 1 of the Southland tournament, losing to Southeastern and McNeese on Saturday and Monday. Really again set their fate. Your thoughts on UNO? Can they come from again outside that bye, and which again is just arduous to try to get through that tournament to get a chance to be able to again get in the NCAAs?
4 wins in 4 days they've got to have in Lake Charles, and that is a lot for this team. But I will say it's second season under Stacey Holloway. Like, they've made improvements.
Yes.
Remember, they won 4 games last year.
They did.
And now, like, they're back in the Southland Conference tournament. They've got like excitement at the Lakefront Arena with Master P bringing the Lake Show, having Choppa and Headband Shorty like doing the halftime shows, just trying to like get excitement, get like donors and to invest in UNO basketball, and they're taking the right steps to do that. And like I said, you've seen the improvement. I don't know if this is the year they're going to get there, but it's one of those like rising, ascending programs where I know Stacey's a great coach. They've got the right idea of what they got to do to get that program up. They're trending in the right direction, but 4 games in 4 days, it's just I don't see it happening.
Impossible.
They honestly could be the dark horse in that Southland tournament because they're in such a weird place where they beat Stephen F. Austin just last week, the number 1 team in the
at their
Southland.
place.
Exactly. They went there and beat them. And then they turn around and come home and lose to Southeastern, one of the worst teams in the conference. So it's like, okay, when this team locks in and plays their best basketball, we've seen that they are capable of beating any team in the Southland.
Yeah.
If they're not locked in, if they're coming into the game cocky, if they're already dreaming about what they're going to do during the first round like they were on Monday, you lose to a team like Southeastern that hasn't even reached double-digit wins on the season. So it really depends which UNO team shows up. They are certainly capable of running the table and winning the Southland, but I need to see that team that beat Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of conference tournaments. Someone can get hot. I even go on the other side of the bracket and look at Nichols. Like if you're looking for another team, remember Nichols jumped out to like a 7-0 start in the Southland. Like they're a good enough team as well that you get hot and you can make a run to the championship. And again, it's not McNeese, it's not Will Wade McNeese, right? It's still a good team, but it's not that McNeese. And SFA can get beat. Like those 2 teams only have to win 2 games. But if you're facing one of those hot teams, because UNO will take SFA, Nichols will get McNeese, if something happens, like it could happen. And that's the beauty of March Madness.
No doubt, which is why we love it. Tulane 17-12, 8-8. They're 7th in the American now. Again, they won a 4-game win streak, but then they lost to, again, 2nd place Tulsa, 1st place South Florida. They're playing Temple tonight, and then they finish up with Memphis on the 8th. And then the conference tournament will start then. Do they have a chance? I mean, it's going to be the same situation. They got to go through, again, so many teams to get there. And again, Ron Hunter's on a little bit of a hot seat as well.
Yeah, and I think the American is a little better this season. So I think it's going to be a tougher. And it's funny, I'm saying it's better without Memphis being good, like being what they've been, the last few seasons. Again, it's one of those things where Tulane can get hot, and I feel like their ceiling is maybe like a semifinal in the American. But there's just so much inconsistent play this season. It really is.
It has been.
And when you have a guy like Roan Bumgar is your preseason player of the year, and he hasn't kind of really stepped up to being that. You've seen the emergence in the league of like South Florida has been so good this season. Like there's a lot where they're going to have to kind of traverse and kind of figure it out. But again, their ceiling I think is a semifinal appearance. But yeah, I think that seat gets hotter for Ron Hunter because eventually you got to produce and you got to win one of these things in terms of getting into the NCAA tournament.
It's been such a seesaw season for Tulane. I mean, they start the conference schedule undefeated, and then they go on a losing streak, and then all of a sudden, they win 4 straight, they're back, and then they're back on another losing streak, and it just comes to consistency, like you said, and that's something the Green Wave have not had. Offensively, their offense comes and it goes. Defensively, it just goes. They haven't been a great defensive team. And to be able to string that many wins together and win the American tournament, the one thing you have to be is consistent. You have to play your best basketball on a consistent basis, which is something this team has not shown us that they're able to do. And Ron Hunter, talking to him this season, you see the frustration.
Yes.
It seems like when he talks after every game, it's almost like he thinks it's the last time that he's going to be talking to us, you know? So Ron Hunter, it seems like there is a lot of pressure on him, a lot of pressure on this team to get it done, but they haven't shown me enough for me to confidently say, yes, Tulane can come out of the American and be one of the teams we're filling in on our bracket come March 15th.
LSU's in the same boat, 15-15, 3-14. They got Texas A&M to finish the season, then they're on to Nashville for the SEC tournament. They're in a last place tie right now with South Carolina. You know, both LSU and Tulane are kind of in the same place. They got coaches that are made on the hot seat, yet again, because of NIL, because of contracts, both guys might be safe. You know, maybe a situation where Hunter may retire rather than come back and get fired. Big Man's probably going to stay because of the money.
Yeah, the buyout is a lot.
Right.
So then I believe it's like $10 million. I think the buyout is for that. So you have the buyout. On top of then you got to go pay another coach. So let's say, I don't know, I love throwing this out here, especially for LSU fans. What if you want to get Will Wade from NC State? Okay, so then you have to pay for his buyout, which I think is about $5 million with NC State. Then offer him another like $12 million contract.
And NIL.
And then go, here's another $10 million to put a roster together. So when it's all said and done, you're talking $40 million to get this men's basketball team rolling. And I think that price, especially with the money you spent getting Lane Kiffin, the $100 million you did to build that roster in football, I just don't see right now donors going, wow, I really hate Matt McMahon that much where I'm going to open up my wallet and then try to get $40 million to have this whole thing processed to get Will Wade back at LSU. So unfortunately, it's Matt McMahon's probably going to run it back another year.
Yeah, I mean, and it stinks to hear if you're an LSU basketball fan, but the reality is, I mean, the athletic director came out and said it recently in an interview, the way that LSU is spending is not sustainable.
Right.
The amount that they're paying for football is something we haven't seen yet in college sports at all.
Right.
And you look across LSU, it's not like all of these sports are making money. Most of LSU sports are losing money. Women's basketball, as successful as they've been, they're losing money. Baseball, 2 championships in the last 3 years, they are losing money. But like the athletic director said, I'd be losing more money if Kim Mulkey wasn't packing out those stadiums, so she's worth it. I'd be losing more money if Jay Johnson, wasn't, winning championships, so he's worth it. The basketball coach isn't doing anything. You know, it's such a depressing sport to watch, and you want to see some change, similar with the Pelicans. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it's broke, you need to fix it. But monetarily, I mean, he mentioned donor fatigue. The fact that these donors are pouring tens of millions of dollars into football, into basketball, and football hasn't been to the playoffs in years. Basketball is last in the SEC. How long can donors continue to spend that kind of money on a team that's not getting the job done? And every year, the price just goes up. You spent $40 million in the transfer portal this year, you might need $50 million next year. And that's just not sustainable. And you're putting an even bigger burden on yourself because you're already paying for Brian Kelly. If you also have to pay to buy your current coach out, to buy your future coach out, and then pay your future coach to be here for any long period of time. So
I would agree. And here's the other part of it as we close. Again, I think you look at the landscape of college athletics now, there's always going to be a program that's going to suffer. And right now it's men's basketball at LSU because the women's basketball team is so good, because again their baseball team is a championship sport, because they have a championship sport in track and field and gymnastics. There's always going to be a sport that's going to be out. A lot of universities are going to put money into their men's basketball program. At LSU, they may not.
Yeah, there's 2 sports that always are revenue generating in college athletics. It's football and men's basketball. Right. So that's where like the discouraging thing is that your other revenue generating sport, which makes money, is not good.
Right.
So that could be the one thing that you can all right, like if we fix this, like this is where we can start making money, because like again that price is just going to go up in terms of NIL, roster building, coaches contracts. Like you need those 2 revenue generating sports to be successful, and LSU right now needs to figure out what they're going to do with men's
30
basketball.
seconds, you got the last word.
I agree. I mean, there's a standard at LSU, and the standard is championships. That's been the standard at football, even though they haven't reached it, and that's the standard they want to reach at basketball. That's the standard that fans want to see in basketball. They want to see all of their teams, not just women's basketball and baseball, gymnastics, track and field. They want to see all of their teams compete so they can show off that purple and gold pride.
Andre Johnson Jr., Ricardo LeCompte, thanks so much for joining us tonight here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Always great to have both guys on the program. All right, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. There's a QR code on your screen that will take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube channel or to my website. Remember, I say it each and every week, we're so blessed with so many ways to catch our program. WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, Pelican Sports Television, and also, again, on the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. Again, you can catch me on the radio, 106.7 The Ticket, 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com, also 106.7 The Ticket. We also have an app, 106.7 The Ticket app. Download it today. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, and the digital platforms that take the show with you everywhere. Also, again, folks, want to thank the underwriters who make our show possible. Please support our underwriters, and of course the folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program each and every week. Ron Yeager, Jim Dodson, Alex Chacon, the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Andre Johnson Jr., for Ricardo LeCompte, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
Ever get the feeling life is sneaking up on you and you're in over your head? YourLifeYourVoice.org is a collection of ideas, interactive tools, and expert advice. It's time to come up for fresh air. YourLifeYourVoice.org.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.